Shabbat Shalom for our Erev Shabbat, where we are going to mark Yom HaShoah. So you know that in May and June we have all these strange festivals that mark all the plight of our people, and at the same time we mark the rebirth of a Jewish state, because next week will be Yom HaAtzmaut, Yom HaZikaron, Yom HaAtzmaut, and all this happens at the same time. So tonight we are going to remember the 6 million of our people who died in the 40s. So we have a booklet, and we begin with silence, the silence of death, the silence after destruction. There are times when songs falter, when darkness fills life, when martyrdom becomes the constellation of faith against the unrelieved black of space about us. There are no words to reach beyond the edge of night, no messenger to tell the full tale. There is only silence, the silence of Job, the silence of the 6 million, the silence of memory. Let us remember them as we link our silence. We're on page 2. We kindle these lights in memory of the 6 million Jews murdered by the Nazis and their collaborators. May the memory of the righteous be for a blessing. Zichronam livracha. Vince, may I ask you to light the Yisco? We do the Shabbat after. And we read together, "Blessed is the match consumed in kindling flame. Blessed is the flame that burns in the secret fastness of the heart. Blessed is the heart with the strength to stop its beating for honor's sake. Blessed is the match consumed in kindling flame."
אשרי הגפרור שנשרף והצית להבות, אשרי הלבבה שבערה בסתרי לבבות, אשרי הלבבות שידעו לחדול בכבוד, אשרי הגפרור שנשרף והצית להבות.
As the Jews were pushed into the ghettos, food was ever harder to obtain. Young children were often those who found it easiest to get food. Small and fast, they were able to get in and out when others couldn't, as this poem shows. May I ask you to come here and to read, please? Yeah, you are the readers for this poem.
Past walls, past guards, through holes, ruins, wires, fences, impudent, hungry, obstinate, I slip by, I run like a cat. At noon, at night, at dawn, in foul weather, a blizzard, the heat of the sun. 100 times I risk my life, I risk my childish neck.
Under my arm, a sackcloth bag, on my back, a torn bag, my young feet are nimble, in my heart constant fear, but all must be endured, all must be borne, so that you, ladies and gentlemen, may have your fill of bread tomorrow.
Through walls, through holes, through brick, at night, at dawn, by day, daring, hungry, cunning, I move silently like a shade. If suddenly the hand of fate reaches me at this game, 'twill be the usual trap life sets.
You, mother, don't wait for me any longer. I won't come back to you. My voice won't reach that far. Dust of the street will cover the lost child's fate. Only one grim question the still face asks. Mummy, who will bring you bread tomorrow? A little garden, fragrant and full of roses. The path is narrow, and a little boy walks along it. A little boy, a sweet boy, like the growing blossom. When the blossom comes to bloom, the little boy will be no more.
And we read together. We are called unto life, our destiny uncertain, yet
we offer thanks for what we know, for health and healing,
for labor and repose, for renewal of beauty in earth and sky, for that blend of human holy which inspires us compassion, and for hope, eternal, promising light.
Please stand. We're on page 5.
Baruch
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher bidvaro ma'ariv aravim. And we continue in English.
Please be seated.
We praise you, eternal one, our God, sovereign of the universe, whose word brings on the evening, whose wisdom opens heaven's gates, whose understanding changes times and seasons, and whose will sets the stars in their courses in the sky. You make day and night, rolling light away from darkness and darkness from light. You make the day pass and bring on the night, and separate day from night. You rule the hosts of heaven. We praise you, O God, whose word makes evening fall. Ahavat olam Beit Yisrael, Amcha ahavta, Torah u'mitzvot, chukim u'mishpatim, otanu limadata. Al kein Adonai Eloheinu, v'shochbeinu uvkumeinu, nastiach bechukecha, v'nismach b'divrei toratecha, ובמצוותיך לעולם ועד. כי הם חיינו ואורך ימינו, ובהם נגה יומם ולילה. ואהבתך אל תסתסו ממנו לעולמים. ברוך אתה אדוני אוהב עמו ישראל. שמע ישראל אדוני כבוד מלכותו לעולם ועד. Reading all together. ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודיך. והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבביך. ושיננתם לבניך ודיברת בם בשבתך ובלכתך בדרך. ושוכבך וקומך, וכתבתם לאות על ידיך, והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך, וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך. On page 7 in the middle. למען תזכרו, ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי, והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים, להיות לכם לאלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם.
Helen, can you come here? Yeah.
Shema. You who live secure in your warm houses, who return at evening to find hot food and friendly faces, consider whether this is a man who labours in the mud, who knows no peace, who fights for a crust of bread, who dies at a yes or a no. Consider whether this is a woman without hair or name, with no more strength to remember, eyes empty and womb cold, as a frog in winter. Consider that this has been. I commend these words to you. Engrave them on your hearts when you are in your house, when you walk on your way, when you go to bed, when you rise. Repeat them to your children, or may your house crumble, disease render you powerless. Your offspring avert their faces from you.
Lodz, renamed Litzmannstadt after annexation, had the second largest population of Jews in Poland after Warsaw, 223,000, one-third of the population. A ghetto was created on the northern edge of the city, to which the Germans drove Jews from other parts of the city, closing it off on the 30th of April, 1940. 164,000 Jews were forced into an area of 4 square kilometers. In 1941 and 1942, a further 38,500 Jews were deported to the ghetto from the Reich, Bohemia, and Moravia, and from nearby towns. From the diary of Rebekka Wedell, Litzmannstadt Ghetto, 13th of February, 1944. I'm sitting at the school now, and like all my friends, I'm waiting for the soup. It's snowing outside, and the classroom hasn't been heated. I'm writing, or rather scribbling. My left hand is in a muff. I'm sleepy. I'm full of remorse. Maybe if Abramek had looked well, Abramek was her brother, by the way, they wouldn't have taken him. He was such a good kid. How many times when I was short of bread, he would give me his. Oh, how many times. That's why he looked bad. I'm full of remorse.
Our next song is a song that was composed for the Lodz Ghetto Theatre. As we know, there have been much music was created in the ghettos as in the camps. And I think it'd be nice if we read the English first all together, and then the choir will sing the Yiddish song. Close your little eyes. Soon little birds will come and hover over the head of your crib. Bags in hand, our home, ashes and fire. My child, we must seek our fortune. God has closed the world down. Night is everywhere. They're waiting for us with shudders and shrieks. You and I will endure very difficult times. We have no idea where our paths will lead us. Stripped bare, we have been driven from our home, chased into the dark woods through storm, hail, and wind. We have been led, my child, led to the abyss of the world.
Und Kreise remember, Zachor, do not forget, Lo Tishkach. On this day, we remember the most devastating episode of our history. From year to year, it recedes a little further into the past. But the magnitude of it remains beyond our comprehension, and the pain of it beyond consolation. All we know for certain is that we have a duty to remember for the sake of those who perished, so that they may not be forgotten, for the sake of those descendants who survived them, so that they may know that they are not alone in their sorrow, for our own sakes, so that we may not be blind to the evil of which human beings are capable, and for the sake of future generations, so that they may consider well what is needed to prevent such a Shoah, such a destruction, from happening again to our people or to any people. We pledge ourselves to remember. And should the wonder happen, and I live on, to see the world illuminated with new light, the light of justice, love and peace, I shall surely praise that generation from the depths of my sorrow, from the deepest abyss of my shattered soul. But my wound will not be healed. Its blood will flow as long as my heart beats, as the blood of my brothers flowed till their hearts froze. And even should you, God, in all your mercy, offer me the cup of forgetfulness, I will not touch it till I shall say, forgive me, God. But if I taste the cup of forgetfulness, I will no longer be. And so, as long as my heart beats, and as long as I know not why you have done all that you have done, I am unable to forget. I am unable to forget. We pledge ourselves not to forget. It was on the 19th of April 1943, the day before Passover, that the final action in the Warsaw Ghetto began. The fighting groups and ghetto inhabitants barricaded themselves in bunkers and hideouts, their demonstrations of resistance taking the Germans by surprise. The Jewish Combat Organization scattered its positions throughout the ghetto. The ZZW, Jewish Military Union, made up of former Polish army officers, did most of its fighting at Muranowska Square, impeding the Germans' attempts to penetrate their defences. In response, the Germans began to systematically burn down the buildings, turning the ghetto into a fire trap. The Jews fought valiantly for a month until the Germans took over the focal points of resistance. It was the first popular uprising in a city in Nazi-occupied Europe. One of the ghetto fighters, Tovia Bodzkowski, later recalled that day. Monday, April the 19th, was the day before Passover, the first day of spring. Sunshine penetrated even to the cheerless corners of the ghetto. But with the last trace of winter, the last hope of the Jews had also disappeared. Those who had remained at their battle stations at night were annoyed by the beauty of the day, for it is hard to accept death in the sunshine of spring. As members of DRAW, we were stationed at Nalaweskes 33. I stood on the balcony of a building on Nalaweskes Genshe with several friends, where we could watch the German troops who stole into the ghetto. Since early dawn, long lines of Germans had been marching, infantry, cavalry, motorized units, regular soldiers, SS troops, and Ukrainians. I wondered what we could do against such might, with only pistols and rifles, but we refused to admit the approaching defeat. Yitzhak Zuckerman, who represented the ZOB on the Aryan side, was asked what military lessons could be learned from the uprising. He replied, "I don't think there's any real need to analyse the uprising in military terms. This was a war of less than 1,000 people against a mighty army, and no one doubted how it was likely to turn out. This isn't a subject for study in military school. If there's a school to study the human spirit, there it should be a major subject. The important things were inherent in the force shown by Jewish youth after years of degradation to rise up against their destroyers and determine what death they would choose, Treblinka or uprising.
It was on the 15th of April 1945 that British troops entered Bergen-Belsen. Though a concentration camp, and in some respects a transit camp rather than a death camp, as more and more prisoners were packed into the camp, conditions became horrific and disease ran rampant, killing many, including Anne Frank, just a month before the liberation. As Richard Dimbleby reported, "I have just returned from the Belsen concentration camp, where for 2 hours I drove slowly about the place. I find it hard to describe adequately the horrible things that I've seen and heard, but here unadorned are the facts. There are 40,000 men, women and children in the camp. German and half a dozen other nationalities, thousands of them Jews. Of this total of 40,000, 4,250 are acutely ill or are dying of virulent disease. Typhus, typhoid, diphtheria, dysentery are rife. 25,600 are either ill through lack of food or are actually dying of starvation. As we went deeper into the camp and further from the main gate, we saw more and more of the horrors of the place, and I realised that what is so ghastly is not so much the individual acts of barbarism that take place in SS camps, but the gradual breakdown of civilization that happens when human beings are herded like animals behind barbed wire." And a further report from Paul Trepman. "April the 15th, 1945 was like any other day, but not for us. We were reborn on that day. Few of us believed that we should ever survive and see freedom again. It's a strange feeling being reborn at a mature age. Normally, people do not remember the details of the day of their birth, of course, but we do. All the details of that April the 15th. As the wearisome days of our captivity dragged on endlessly, we had lost sense of time and of continuity. Very often, we envied those who died in their own homes, on their own beds, before we were sucked into the bloody cauldron. We were neither alive nor dead in captivity. Our legs moved heavily, and our hands performed mechanical function, but there was no spirit in us. Spiritually, we were dead. A new life sprang up from the filth and ashes of the liberated camps. When the British entered Belsen, some of us fainted for joy, and most of us had no strength left to celebrate. Looking back, I don't know myself how we survived and where we took our strength from. The fact is that a new people had arisen on the graves of the martyrs. We survivors will always remember April the 15th as a second birthday, perhaps in a sense, a more important one than the first.
(1980). And when I go up as a pilgrim in winter to recover the place I was born and the twin to self I am in my mind, then I'll go in black snow as a pilgrim to find the grave of my Saviour in over. Shall hear what I whisper under my breath. Thank you, you saved my tears from the flame. Thank you, children and grandchildren you rescued from death. I planted a sapling, it doesn't suffice, in your name. Time in its Gaia spines back down the flue, faster than nightmares of nooses can ride, quicker than nails, and you, my Saviour, in your cellar you'll hide me, ascending in dreams as a pilgrim to you. You'll come from the yard in your slippers, crunching the snow, so I'll know. Again I'm there in the cellar, degraded and low. You're bringing me milk and bread sliced thick at the edge. You're making the sign of the cross. I'm making my pencil its pledge.
So we're on page 16, and we'll invite you to read with me Psalm 23. You are my shepherd and my God, therefore no want I know. You let me lie in pastures green, and where calm waters flow. My weary spirit revive when I am distressed. And for your name's sake, lead my steps in path of righteousness. The darkest valley holds no fear, for you are at my side. Your presence is my comfort still, your rod and staff my guide. You feast my soul, O God, in spite of those who wish me ill. With precious oil you soothe my head, my cup with joy you fill. Your love and goodness steadfastly shall follow me always, and in your house, O God, shall I dwell to the end of days. Adonai roi lo echsar binot deshe yabitzeni al mei menuchot yenaleini nafshi yeshover yancheni b'magle tzedek yancheni b'magle tzedek leman shemo. Page 16, please arise and we read responsively. We remember our 6 million who died when madness ruled and evil dwelt on earth. We remember those of whom we know and those whose very names are lost. We cherish the memory of those who died as martyrs, those who died resisting, and those who died in terror. We mourn for all that died with them, their goodness and their wisdom, which could have done so much to ennoble and enrich humanity. We mourn for the genius and the wit that died, the learning and the laughter that were lost.
We stand in gratitude
for the simple, decent lives of those who are the congregation of Israel. Their spiritual resistance remains as an enduring testimony to a community where light persisted in darkness. Each person was unique. Remember them only in love and compassion. We salute those who had the courage to stand outside the mob, to save us and to suffer with us. They too are God's witnesses and a source of hope when we are tempted to despair.
Because of our people's suffering, may such times never come again, and may their sacrifice not be in vain.
In our daily fight against cruelty and prejudice, tyranny and persecution, their memory gives us strength. Listening to El Maleh Rachamim, we remember those who sanctify God's name, and we say together the English translation of El Maleh Rachamim. God, full of compassion, grant perfect rest under the wings of your presence, among the holy and pure, who shine as the brightness of the firmament, to the souls of the millions of our people killed because they were Jews. Source of mercy, shelter them forever under your wings, and let their souls be bound up in the gathering of life. Eternal One, they are yours. They will rest in peace.
El Maleh Rachamim, Shochen Bamromim, Hamatzei Menucha Nechona, Tachat Kanfei HaShekhinah, B'malot Kedoshim Utorim, Kezohar Harakia Matzirim, Et Nishmot Shisha Million Acheinu Va'achyoteinu Shenehergu al Kiddush Hashem Ba'al Harachamim Yashtireim Beseter K'nafov Le'olamim V'yitzor b'tzor HaChaim Et nishmatam Adonai hu nachalatam V'yanuchu b'shalom Al mishkavam V'nomar Amen.
Page 18, we read together these words written by Rabbi Regina Jonas, who was the first ordained woman rabbi in 1935, and she died in Auschwitz in 1944. If worry and despondency seek our undoing, then
we should think about its core in such a way that we carry on the work of our ancestors from Sinai. In that we today are truly their children, and in that we are the parents of future generations, when the chain does not break, and we gain the strength to carry out nobly these historical responsibilities, and to thank God sincerely that His core has become the celebration of our soul. And before we sing the next prayer, perhaps I'd like to read it all again in English. I believe with perfect faith that the time of redemption will come, and though it be long delayed, I will daily await its coming.
Aleinu is on page 18.
Aleinu
Shabeach l'Adon hakol, לתת גדלות יוצא בראשית, אשר שם חלקנו לאחד את שמו, לגור עלינו להמליך מלכותו, ואנחנו מודים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך. And then it shall come to pass that your sons and daughters shall prophesy.
The old shall dream dreams, and the young shall see visions.
Violence shall no more be heard within your land.
Devastation or destruction within your borders.
They shall not hurt or destroy in all my holy mountain. For the
earth shall be full of the knowledge of God,
as the waters cover the sea. Nation shall not lift up sword against nation.
And never again shall they learn to make war.
But justice shall roll down like waters,
and righteousness like an ever-flowing stream. B'yom hahu yeh Adonai echad u'shamo echad.
Please be seated. We who lived in the concentration camps can remember the men who walked through the huts comforting others, giving away the last piece of bread. They may have been few in number, but they offer sufficient proof that everything can be taken from a man but one thing, the last of human freedoms, to choose one's attitude in any given set of circumstances, to choose one's own way, and there were always choices to make. Every day, every hour offered the opportunity to make a decision which determined whether you would become the playthings of circumstances, renouncing freedom and dignity to become molded into the form of a typical inmate, or whether you would choose instead to be free.
We invite you all to sing with the choir the Partisan Song. And to sing it in Yiddish and in English.
Du gehst den letzten Weg, wenn in den Bayern verstellen neue Tag. Von Blumen wetten wir unser Ostgeschau. Es wird erhebt und unser Traum mit seinen Blau. Blumen wetten zu uns die ganze Show. Es wird erhebt und unser Traum mit seinen Blau. Von einem armen Land bis weißen Land verschmäht, mit hoher Ort, mit unser Bein, mit unser Weg. Blumenfarben ist der Spitz von unser Blut, Spatzen weg dort unser Wohner, unser Mut. Dort unser Bruder, unser Blut. You must not say that you know of the final way, because the darkened heavens hide the blue of day. And then we long for wind and lost in drawing near, and our senses drums for sound that we are near. As drums with sound that we are in. From land of green with palms to lands of white with snow, we now arrive with all our pain and all our woe. Where our blood sprayed out and came to touch the land, there our courage and our faith will rise and stand. Spread out and came to touch the land. There our courage and our faith will rise and stand. Please stand for the Kiddush HaShoah, which was written by Elie Wiesel. And it's a responsive reading. Yitgadal v'yitkadash Shemei Rabbah בעלמא דברה חירותי וימליך מלכותי בחייכון וביומכון ובחיי דכל בית ישראל בעגלה ובזמן קריב ויאמרו אמן. יהי שמי רבה מבורך לעלם ולעלמי עלמיה. יתברך וישתבח, ויתפאר ויתרומם, ויתנשא ויתהדר, ויתעלה ויתעלל, שמי דקודשה בריחו, לאלה, מכל ביכתה ושירתה, תושבחתה ונחמתה, דאמירן בעלמה, ואמרו אמן. יהי שלמה רבה מן שמיה, חיים עלינו ועל כל ישראל, ואמרו אמן. עושה שלום במרומיו, הוא יעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל ועל כל בני אדם ואמרו אמן. Please be seated. And let's pray together. O God, give us ears to hear and hearts to understand the memories these words bring, so that we might acknowledge their life and their suffering, their death and their resistance, their survival, their despair, and their hopes. May we pledge ourselves to honor their memories by living our lives to the fullest. May we heed these words. I beg you, do something, learn a dance step, something to justify your existence, something that gives you the right to be dressed in your skin, in your body hair. Learn to walk and to laugh, because it would be too senseless, after all, for so many to have died while you live, doing nothing with your life.
And before we sing our final prayer, I'd like to just say a couple of words about Hannah Senesh. In a way, she's framed our service in a way, with Ashrei Hagafror, blessed is the candle, the flame, and then coming to Eli, Eli. The Ashrei Hagafror was the last poem she wrote after she was parachuted into a partisan camp in Nazi-occupied Yugoslavia. I read today that throughout the Holocaust and all of the World War II, only one military attempt was made to enter Nazi Germany, and Hannah Senesh was part of this group. She was born in Hungary in 1921. She joined the Zionist youth movement and emigrated to Palestine in 1939. In 1943, she enlisted in the British Women's Auxiliary Air Force and was recruited into the Special Operations Executive and was sent to Egypt for parachute training. On March the 14th, 1944, she was parachuted into Yugoslavia and joined a partisan group. The plan was to join the resistance in Hungary. However, the plan was abandoned by her comrades when they heard that the Nazis were already in Budapest. But Hannah Senesh continued to the border, where she was arrested and for several months was tortured into giving information. She never did. Eventually, she was executed. She died aged 23. Yeah. And her act of heroic self-sacrifice can be heard in the opening words of another of her poems, A Voice Called and I Went for a voice called. So we finish our service with Eli, Eli. Please do join in.
As you wish, yeah, where you feel more comfortable. God, my God, I pray that these things never end, the sand and the sea, the rush of the waters, the crush of the heavens, the prayer of the hearts. Thank you, choir. Thank you, Rebekka, for putting together such a wonderful musical moment. And thank you for those who have come and joined us tonight online. So tomorrow morning, because things never end and Filat Israel, the prayer of Israel, never ends, tomorrow we will have a Shabbat morning service where we will celebrate Yom HaAtzmaut. It's the Shabbat of Yom HaAtzmaut. And just also to let you know, if you look on the newsletter that came out yesterday or today, I can't remember, there is a link, because we have been invited by the United Synagogue of Kingston to celebrate Yom HaAtzmaut with them on Wednesday evening. So there's a link to join, and I will go and I will really invite you to come because I think it's a great occasion to bring our communities together to celebrate the birth and the existence of Israel. So Shabbat Shalom to you all, and I'll see you in the morning. Shabbat Shalom.